What's going on, YouTube? It's Paul Piper back here with you, and today I'm going to share something I recently picked up. It's an antique Miller, Dubrul, and Peters cigar press from the late 19th century, very early 20th century. So this is something that would have been distributed throughout the United States out of that company, Miller, Dubrul, and Peters, which originally was founded in New York City in 1870, and I believe they moved their headquarters to Cincinnati, Ohio, later on in the 19th century. They would have made these, shipped them out to cigar factories all over the world, and in particular all over the United States. Cigar factories could be found in very small towns, big cities, everywhere. Pretty much everybody was in the tobacco business in one way, shape, or form. And these are cast iron construction. And as you see here, these wooden pieces are cigar molds. So let's go ahead and take a look at what a cigar mold looks like. So you see here you have the postage stamp, so they probably ordered a particular mold and just shipped it like this through the United States Postal Service. Now they press together and you open them up, and as you see here you have two halves, and you have wooden molds for whatever cigar shape that you are making. And kind of an interesting history with the industrialization of the West. Before the industrial age, you had master craftsmen who rolled cigars, and they were quickly absorbed into the Union, and the Union protected them. Well, when industrial age came around, you had things like this that were being created that sped up the time it took to produce a cigar, and pretty much enabled any type of industrialist to order some of these and hire some low-skilled workers or medium-skilled workers to roll cigars, and you could produce huge quantities in a relatively short amount of time with a relatively unskilled workforce. So this kind of revolutionized the way that cigars were manufactured, from the old way of strictly hand rolling, having somebody that was very skilled and properly rolling a tight cigar that had a good draw on it, to you could have somebody that takes a fraction of the time, rolls it, puts it in the press, lets it sit for between 20 minutes and 3 hours. I've read multiple figures on that, on how long they actually kept them in the press. After that time, open up the mold, and boom, you've got a cigar. And then you just package them up and ship them out. So, this particular press weighs about 60 pounds or so, and it came with 10 of these molds. So you stack the molds up, and then you lower this. So you turn this lowers and applies the correct amount of pressure on these wooden molds. And like I said, different sizes. The 10 that I have, range from Panatella, Corona. They're all fairly smaller cigar cigar types. But this is a really cool piece of history, tobacco history, American history, and I actually picked it up in Battle Creek. And what was really kind of interesting was on the back of this, there was this piece of, I think it's just a piece of a shipping container, a wooden shipping container, and it has a very old particle paper label on it. And it's kind of hard to read, probably 100 years, well, probably more than 100 years, but it says from the A. Hussey Leaf Tobacco Company, LaSalle Street, Chicago, and it was shipped to 29 West State Street in Battle Creek, Michigan. Now, A. Hussey was founded, I think, right after the Civil War, and they were one of the largest suppliers of leaf tobacco. So if you had a factory, a cigar factory, in some town in America, let's say Battle Creek, you're going to order some of these presses, and then you're going to order your tobacco leaf from a company like A. Hussey. And they had product catalogs, and you can see some of those online, not only for these types of presses from Miller, but then from these tobacco leaf suppliers. They had trade journals, so you can see some of those online. All kind of different tobacco leaf that was being grown in the United States or imported and then shipped all across by these distributors to whatever cigar factory that wanted them. And so this was probably a press that stayed in Battle Creek, probably a cigar factory in Battle Creek, Michigan. I'll have to do a little bit more research and find out what companies were there, cigar companies were there in the latter half of the 19th century, the very first decades of the 20th, and see if I can pin down which company it was. And perhaps this address is going to be the biggest clue, because I really can't read out who the recipient name is, but it does say 29 West State Street in Battle Creek, Michigan. So very cool, a relic of America's past, and something that is still in use today. If you watch videos on cigar manufacturing in the Dominican Republic or Cuba or wherever it is, they're still using these. And very little has changed in the production of cigars. So, one thing that would be cool is if I was able to try my hand at rolling some cigars and pressing them. I know you got to get the different tree resins to keep the wrapper bound, and obviously there is a knack to it, but something like this, you can really go through quite a few cigars in a short period of time. So that's what I wanted to share with you. Leave some comments below. Do you own one of these? Have you seen one in use? Have you ever tried to grow your own tobacco or roll your own cigars? Let me know, and if good Lord's willing and the creek don't rise, I'll see you next time. It's been Paul Piper. Take care.